won 2 games so far. Do they leave it up for game 3 and just go, well, now we kind of want to see how this goes because we feel confident in game 4? The answer is no. They don't want to play against Hoya's Varus, which is understandable. They actually take away the Rumble and Varus, which to me indicates that as much as we're talking about Zhuo, as much as we're talking about Assum, Care, and Guwon and their combination, Hoya is the big X factor that BLG are respecting, and it's been true for 2 games now.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Yunara actually going to be the first pick here. I don't hate this, especially if you have something in the middle of the map that can really be more aggressive. We've seen that, you know, I know it's off the board, but that like Vi, Talia, Yunara trio get really popular, and the idea is that you can use your pressure in the early game to transition into a hyper carry late. I think that's a much more consistent idea of what they've been trying to go for in the first couple of games, but the answer is quick. It's the Lulu coming in on the other side, and Lulu likes to dissuade a lot of that more aggressive I guess, play coming out. Does Shun want to go super aggressive as a carry here? He's going to go for more engage with the Wukong. I like this pickup.
Yeah. I mean, Wukong does just feel like a very standard disrupting pick at the moment, and I feel that way about both of these picks. The only thing that's really signaling an identity to me right now is that with the Lulu denial, you're also getting the ability to pick a hyper carry of your own and have it function even better than any Yunara ever could, because you're going to have the backup of Lulu, who is Lulu.
Indeed, and it will be a trade of enchanters onto the other side here, as Karma is the selection, but I got to talk about this Qiyana, because this is going to make or break this entire game. I mean, Guwon's Qiyana has been inconsistent, but it's been his go-to pick when he has to carry, when he has to be more aggressive. We've seen him make multiple mistakes and not be willing to pull the trigger multiple times, especially in game number 2. He's going to have to be better. He is a big part of potentially scaling this game. But once again, where is the early game tempo? Qiyana's going to have to do so much, as Misfortune Lulu is actually going to be the answer on the other side. It's all in on the 2v2 with this Wukong, who can also skirmish very early on at level 6.
Yeah, Misfortune is going to feel a lot more comfortable than most other AD carries into a Karma Yunara, who, you know, otherwise are going to have a decent amount of poke. Misfortune has quite a bit of damage herself, so will feel a lot better. Like you say, the Qiyana is really the thing that draws the eye in this matchup, because otherwise BLG and NIP, it is clear that they are drafting strong bot lanes. That's nice, but the jungle is where you have this big stylistic difference, where Shun is going to be utility, tank, a little bit of damage, just typical bruiser things for BLG, but Guwon has to be the big, I want to say X factor, but pivot point perhaps might be better for NIP, where he is, and specifically where Supreme Display of Talent is being used, is where NIP must be winning fights. And I say used, it's got to be hitting as well. This can't be panic. This can't be defensive. This has to be proactive setup, which in a way, Kman, is exactly what you asked for.
It is. It's proactive. It's not consistent, but it's proactive. It's something that you can play through. The Kennen and the Jax are going to be the bans from NIP. It's the Yorick and the Galio on the other side. They don't want that follow through with the Qiyana in the mid lane. I kind of respect the idea that, like, whatever else you pick here is fine. Tanks are on the board. I will say that. Ornn, Sion, Gnar, all of them are still available if these two top laners perhaps want to have a bit of a wet noodle fight on the top side of the map and just play a little bit more for the rest of their comp. I would like the Gnar as a follow-through to the Wukong engage. It really makes the bullet time a lot more consistent when you want to play through this, but it really signifies to me that they want to go for something more aggressive, more, you know, heavy hitting in the mid lane. Knight obviously has been fantastic throughout this series. We got to hover here. I'd be shocked if that is the lock-in. Generally speaking, I think that there are quite a few options left on the board that I would assume would be prioritized a little bit before that. But for now, I agree that you do need something in the mid lane that can be, you know, a follow-through on the Qiyana. Maybe that's going to be the blind Sylas, and that's what it's going to be. But we say blind. This could also go top lane for Hoya as well.
In terms of ult value as well, I do think you're getting a pretty good deal with Sylas. There is a lot that you can do utility-wise with the ultimates that are available, and that is going to be really nice for Care, assuming that he is able to get out of this without being giga hard countered. Or
yeah.
Hoya.
Ooh. Yeah, I'm thinking this could be top lane. Yeah, I actually really like this as an adaptation from NIP. Putting that Sylas top to be able to play off the Qiyana and getting the roaming potential from the Twisted Fate. Really, really nice combo there, because the Sylas is going to have a really easy laning phase into Gnar, who he does fantastic into. What does Knight want to round this out with? He needs damage. I really think that's an important part of this comp to be able to follow through on the MF bullet time. Who's going to capitalize on all of this CC? He could just keep going back to the well. He's had a couple of really great performances very recently on multiple different champions, but it's gonna be the LeBlanc. That's what I want to see. I wanted to see an assassin, and he gives me my wish here.
I really thought we were going to see a Syndra pick, but I like this. I mean, BLG, I want to talk about their composition a little bit later. NIP's comp, did it give you what you were looking for? Is this the proactivity that NIP needed going into Game 3 that they have not demonstrated in Games 1 and 2?
Honestly, yes. I think you have plenty of proactivity on the map here. I think you are actually better throughout most of the early game. There's really not a lot of ways for BLG to punish, even if that Misfortune and LeBlanc are going to be pushing forward. These are champions that do kind of want to snowball, and I don't think you have the best synergy here with the Lulu, who's not really going to be able to help all that much in the early game outside of the 2v2, but look at the playmaking tools. If this Qiyana gets any gold, now all of a sudden Twisted Fate is showing up, and the Gnar engages are completely dissuaded by the Sylas. I really like this draft. Still going to come down to execution. I still think you fall off in the late game if you don't have enough gold on the Yunara, but more tools, what I was looking for here from NIP, I think they accomplished it.
Yeah, falling off in the late game, not really the priority from what I understood going into this game. It is about NIP having tools to attack BLG in the early game, and now when we go into the game, it is about actually using those tools, getting proactive, getting aggressive, and forcing NIP to somehow, some way, forcing BLG to somehow, some way respond, because that is where NIP are going to get a lot of their data, a lot of their growth, and potentially open up avenues to take a game, or like we said, even a gold lead. NIP need a victory here, big or small. Can they do it in Game 3?
Oh, we're already getting some action topside. Hoya's in trouble.
Unfortunately, not going to have a good time with this. Chain does go wide, but
the flash
from Knight will secure first blood. And I want to say that, wow, we couldn't see this coming, but we could definitely see this coming, thanks to the spectators who made sure that we were very well aware of a cheesy LeBlanc play up top. Now, this will cost him 2 minions, but I don't mind. I don't think he does either.
Yeah, I think he'll take the trade. Gold, all considered, it's going to be just fine for Knight. Be a little bit behind in XP, but still, that is a massive problem for the Sylas. That is a huge, huge piece of this comp here for NIP, who is now pretty far behind. And they're going to need it in this series, because you know what NIP has never done, Dia? NIP has never been able to beat BLG in a best of series at any point throughout the history of the LPL since their introduction many, many years ago. 3-18 in game score. That is not series score. They've only won 3 games ever against Bilibili as an organization. It is not looking good as a start here in game number 3, but see if they can rebound and get this early game comp on board.
Yeah, it is a tough record to be playing up against, or with it in mind. I'm hoping that even with the record and with the last 2 games that NIP can let that go, even with the first kill. As often as this is going to or could happen, NIP need to be letting as much go as possible and continuing to make plays, because it is their avenue for growth within this series. Knight gonna get aggressive in the mid lane. Care does eat a chunk of damage, but on this Twisted Fate, remember, we're looking for... can go at level 6 and make trouble elsewhere.
Yeah, I actually think that the XP lead is going to be fine for Care, especially because Knight hasn't gotten that first back off yet. This is going to be an okay situation for the Twisted Fate, who should have a lot of shove in this lane as long as he doesn't play overly aggressive. But now, Shun, both junglers on the bot side, in fact, with Guwon taking the crab. Some action going on. On could be pretty low here.
BLG know, surely, that Guwon is here. Because of the way that Zhuo was playing. Shun's actually come down to counter gank, and Viper still has flash, so Guwon is going to get polymorphed and immediately taken to about a 3rd HP. Just nice comms, nice awareness from BLG to go, okay, Karma's playing pretty darn aggressive right now. We're going to get ganked. And they do.
Yeah, I mean, That trap is bad. That is a really, really bad play. Unfortunately, NIP go, oh man, this Lulu's like really over-aggressive for no reason, huh? Turns out it's not for no reason, and now with no flash on the Qiyana, that one champion that really dictates how this entire game will go has significantly less playmaking tools, and this could be a little bit difficult as NIP walk up.
Oh no.
One's in trouble
It's
here.
happening again. He walks in thinking that he's safe, but he's not. Shun pops out of the bush and jump scares. Once again, it will be a 1 for 2 in the mid lane, but a double kill for Knight on top of the first blood he collected earlier. That's going to be a juicy death.
Yeah, that's 3 kills, a lost chapter, and a dark seal for this LeBlanc. I think things are getting a little bit problematic overall right now for NIP. Guwon just feeling himself way too much. He gets the flash burn on the bottom side, not respecting the fact that, of course, Wukong is going to be up on the top side to contest this crab. You're not going to be able to get it for free. And he just dies for it. He costs his mid laner his life as well, although Kare does pick up a kill on the other side. Going to be building towards that Roa. This play has to work for Guwon.
Stun. And nothing. Bin saves the jump, gets away.
Yeah.
And I think something tells me that when you said it has to work, that wasn't exactly what you had in mind.
Yeah, I mean, getting the flash is something. Perhaps it's another thing going over. This level 6 power spike is still going to be massive for ninjas in pajamas. You can't count that out. But this is a comp that cannot afford to fall behind in terms of gold because you have no true frontliner. So if you're down in gold, you can't really posture around a lot of these objectives, even in the mid game. Have to make sure you're in a good spot. For now, the bot lane doing its job. It's going to be able to push in a little bit more than you would expect. Yunara Karma actually should generally have a pretty big advantage, in my opinion, into this Misfortune and Lulu, despite kind of what you would expect. But Knight is going to be a problem on this LeBlanc. You have to snowball on this champ, and he has already done so.
And he just hit 6 as well. The XP lead no longer really a factor. As a lot of burst online for LeBlanc at the moment. Level lead for NIP bot side is going to be a trade of barriers as well as heals. And Assum actually getting out of this a pretty tough spot. Does finish at least moving the wave forward, but off of this, BLG and Shun are going to be able to create a freeze should they wish to. And they do not wish to.
Yeah, the freeze coming through. The ping's coming down, actually, onto the invade here. They could look to dive. They really wanted to do that. Hoya. Ooh, stolen ult.
That's big. Hoya answers back. From minute 1, he got taken down. And now has turned that around. The Silas into Gnar counter pick. Looks pretty darn good.
Yeah, I'm saying it's working out right now. Hoya has just been a magician.
No,
These more aggressive champions, awesome.
That was
has
a great
to flash under his own turret just to survive. But still, it's another resource down for NIP. Dragon is spawned on this side of the map if they do want to play aggressive. Guwon going to steal away some camps, but it will just be a trade of steals. Be on the top side here. They could look for a dive on Bin.
Level 6 already for Guwon and Bin. No rage.
Oh, Knight's here.
Nothing to do. In comes the Twisted Fate, and Kare is going to help secure that kill, but Knight has roamed up to help things out. Actually might look for an answer onto Kare as well. Does need to play a little careful with Hoya in the area, but it will ultimately be a 1-for-1 top lane, which could go a lot worse for BLG. Again, appreciating the playmaking that NIP are throwing out there.
Yeah, Guwon actually, or I should say Kare, actually coming in really clutch in that one with the exhaust. I think he is almost for sure dead in that fight if he doesn't switch over to that with that Summoner Spellbook. But it's a nice trade overall for NIP, who actually have a bit of a gold lead here. You can look across the map. They're winning in most spots. Hoya is doing a great job on the top side to utilize this counter pick, and Kare has been able to recover despite the fact that Knight has 3 kills. He's been able to complete his Roa first, and completing Roa 7 minutes into the game is a really good feeling for a Twisted Fate that, you know, can really utilize these ults to open up the map.
This could get a whole lot worse. Shun already showing up in the mid lane. Doesn't have ult available just yet, but Knight does not mind and will end up securing the kill with all the extra damage and gold that he picked up earlier. Bin now wanting to get aggressive on Hoya is going to force the flash out of Silas, but be unable to answer back the solo kill that Hoya served him earlier.
Yeah, Caster Blessing on the bot side in game number 2. Caster Curse in the mid lane here for game number 3, with Kare immediately dying with that Roa stack. Knight has 4 kills on this LeBlanc. He's moving to the top side as well. They want to dive this Silas.
Could easily make it 5, and over the wall he goes. Hoya low, Hoya gone. And that is I guess not making it 5 since Bin did get the kill, but it's 5 in my heart.
Five in all of our hearts in terms of Knight's impact on this game. The best player in the league continues to fight as Viper unleashes on Assum.
That was a nice bullet time. Is it enough? Last auto says it is, and Viper secures a kill on Assum. Not able to step up into Zhuo, who could actually still take him down, but perfectly comfortable playing on the edge of that range and throwing in as much damage onto Karma as physically possible. BLG will be able to shove in yet another wave, and that means a gold lead generated bot lane, and the first time that we see BLG take the first dragon of the game.
Yeah, that's not a good sign. It's a 1.5k gold lead for the comp that scales a lot better. The one snowballing piece on the team is Knight, who has 4 kills. It's not looking good for NIP. Assum is at a really tough series up until this point in terms of the 2v2 on the bot side. He's just over-aggressive as the Unara in that circumstance. Of course, the Lulu polymorph comes in, bullet time comes down, and just is able to eliminate him. Ping's coming down onto the top side. Hoya could continue to be a target. He's been the only player to consistently generate leads for NIP. BLG have recognized this and say, I think we'll let anyone else beat us here.
Once Silas steals the Gnarl, you gotta play careful. He's gonna look for it again. That is just so much damage. The AP scaling on Gnarl is no joke, and with Ignite, Bin goes Mega just in time to prevent his falling to another solo kill. Does force Shun to pay some attention to the top side, and that's all right.
Yeah, I imagine small bit of miscommunication as Knight is going to make his way out. Guwon continuing to at least steal away resources and camps as a bit of a CS lead, but
his gold card expired, so he has literally nothing to say about this.
I just... The engages are so snappy. They're so quick. They're so free. Guwon needs to play aggressive. It's not happening right now. He is stealing camps. He's up in farm, and he's down in pressure. Shun continuing to make more of an impact. Only 2v2.
Definitely a good place to put our focus. As this time he showed up bot side. This is unspotted from BLG, but that doesn't mean that they don't have an idea. It could happen. Teleport here as well means that the bot side play has to work for NIP. They are investing so much in this, and Shun, who is around as well, I thought had a read on the fact that this gank was going to happen, but instead is clearing camps in the area and will have to rotate down quickly. Supreme display of talent forces the flash on Viper. A cancellation of the bullet time as he plays underneath the tower, gets the extra growth, but is not going to, even with the wild growth, actually need it to turn that around. We said that fight had to work for NIP. It in 0 ways worked.
If there is an embodiment of desperation, that play is it, because there's just no way that ever works. It is just so unlikely with Knight making his way down that you win the 4v4 at this point in the game. Knight is so fed on this LeBlanc. He has been unbelievably good in this series up until this point. Even Bin has started to shove in Hoya. He's got a level lead on the top side at this point with the Gnar. No stolen ultimate, no problem. We do get a nice trade there, but overall, it's just a disaster for NIP as taking on.
Be a kill. Nice.
Yeah. It's something. They are going to be able to pick that up.
It is more than something. There's a good news story developing here for NIP. Is I'm gonna have to hold that for the bad news story that's developing. Gank into the bot side actually could turn into a little bit more for NIP, and it will. 1-for-1 as Care goes down. But NIP continue to feed their win condition of Assum, as he is the only place on the map where they have a gold lead. Unfortunately, it comes at the cost of their mid and top laner.
Yeah, I don't mind the play in isolation, but again, if you're going to lose Care, and if you're really going to lose Hoya on the top side as we get in this picture-in-picture, things become more difficult. Guwon is in the area, but it's just not going to happen, man. With Shun and Knight moving around the map, they own Summoner's Rift at the moment. This was a comp that needed to snowball games. They needed to use their level 6s better. They've not been capable of doing that, but you're right, a 1k gold lead onto Assum in the bot lane matters. See how they can use it with Dragon spawning in just over a minute.
And I want to remind you, us, this is a conversation piece. We're going to have to watch Guwon be forced out of the river first and actually walk back because he wants to die. He's still alive, and now that has been rectified. Viper ends up picking up the kill. A situation where Guwon had absolutely no right walking up, and Shun actually did with the wild growth. Gets a little bit of shielding as well, survives for a very long time, enough to let Viper channel the bullet time, but maybe they've overstepped, maybe! Assum is popping the heck off with a triple kill and chasing down Knight, even forcing a flash out of LeBlanc. This is the win condition that NIP were feeding.
Oh boy, Dia, did I not expect that fight to go that way. Guwon basically kills himself at the start of the fight in terms of his positioning on that Kiana, but he does just enough to be able to get the damage down for the supreme display of talent. And that sets up for Yunara. The win condition is clear at this point for Ninjas in Pyjamas. And to get a replay of this fight, Guwon's already been chunked by Knight and by Shun. Walks back up right into the engage from Wukong. This looks unbelievably free. Shun even flashes onto the Yunara, but there's no follow through. Once the barrier comes down, this Wukong can't really play the rest of this fight. He has to disengage, and Yunara is still basically full health. Resources going down onto Zhuo, but look where the damage is going. On top of Care and not on Yunara, who even when polymorphed, just gets to sit there, come out of the polymorph, and free hit. This is the way they can win the game. Objectives are going to be really important, but this Yunara has all of a sudden become the most important champion on the Rift.
It says a lot. 6-1 LeBlanc has to flash away from the AD carry. No matter the stage in the team fight, we have to respect that Assum is the centerpiece of NIP right now, and that means that he has to play low risk, and unfortunately, he is positioning pretty far forward. The rest of BLG, after that fight, have pretty well identified that this is an assassination mission. Assum simply must die, and that is going to be the single thing that you see BLG focusing on for the next couple minutes. Knight already looking.
See, that's the thing, right? Is Dragon is started up here by BLG. It looks decently uncontestable unless they really want to change their plans. It looks like it will just be a trade of Dragon for Herald. That is the thing about this draft in particular.
Oh no.
As Viper's on the top side, he's going to try and deny the eye, and he's going to be successful, I think, in doing so.
Oh no. That is one of the most devastating things to watch in League of Legends. Not being able to get the eye to Herald. In fact, one might go back over the wall for it. He's thinking about it, but decides against it. Zhuo doesn't get locked up by the chains, but again, Shun pays attention to the bot side, just making sure that Assum cannot have his way with the tower or any part of the map, ideally. Guwon did not end up grabbing the eye, just as an update, everyone.
And the trade all of a sudden becomes a non-trade. It becomes the gold that you get and the XP from slaying Rift Herald versus the second dragon for BLG. Not looking quite as good on the scoreboard there after that one, but again, for NIP, they've got the tools. Does Hoya have the tools to get out of here?
I think. I hope he does not. I guess not. BLG and Bin specifically make a solo kill happen, much like Hoya did to them earlier. Knight's going to walk a little far forward into this brush, though, and Care, waiting with a gold card, has Guwon on the way. It is out of there.
Pro is chained to death for Silas on the top side. A phenomenal play from Bin. He executes it perfectly on the Gnar, but again, it's just more execution diff in favor of BLG. Biggest concern you have if you're an NIP fan here is, yes, you have a super-fed Yunara. What's the one thing that can beat a super-fed Yunara, super-fed LeBlanc? Is we get a TP on the top side, but it's just going to be Bin TPing out, saying, yeah, thanks, we'll take the trade of summoners here.
Yeah, fair enough. He gets out and keeps another kill from going over to Yunara. In addition, BLG end up getting the bot lane tier 1, which will almost round them out. There's mid lane, the last one standing, and surely the focus for BLG. For all that we have had a couple of plays go wrong for NIP, I will say this more proactive game has stopped a lot of momentum out of BLG, who are normally, in the last 2 games at the very least, much faster about taking all the outers, pressuring for tier 2s. It's slowed down significantly in game 3, and I think a big part of that is because NIP are able to play with so much more aggression at heart.
They definitely have more tools in this game, but those tools will get worse and worse as the game goes along. I think notably you're looking at this Kiana, and really spotlighting Guwon as the player that needs to step up. Hoya pretty far behind on the top side. Gonna get put even further behind here.
Flashing out actually works, which is nice. I will say flashing, not so nice, but in terms of keeping yourself alive, there are worse things. No objective up at the moment, although we do have to think about 2 minutes from now. The Hextech Dragon that will be up. Guwon, unfortunately, likely not going to survive to that point as he gets chained up and taken down. Supreme display of talent erupts to celebrate his falling as flash forward from Assum might kill Viper, but he gets polymorphed and taken down. The assassination comes out of Knight, and this time it's going to be BLG who managed to take the fight. Flash away over the wall is answered by Care, but Shun is still all over him. Stun comes out once again, slowed underneath the tower. Shun might just commit for this. Dash.
Shun is going deep.
Not up in time. Not up in time. Stop. Stop chasing him. Stop. You don't get him. Stop. Good. No. Stop.
Ben? Everybody wants a piece of Care right now as he runs back to the base. It looks like an okay fight for NIP for a bit there, with Hoya re-entering and actually doing quite a bit of damage on the Sylas, but it's just not enough. You called it out in the fight, Dia. That polymorph from On was absolutely beautiful. That could have been disastrous for BLG if that doesn't go off, but we're gonna get a replay of just how this starts. I was highlighting Guwon. Well, here he is making a massive mistake into darkness. You have a control ward in that brush, and you just walk up anyways. Viper looks like he could be in some trouble here, but the Lulu ultimate, Viper flashing over the wall, and the perfectly timed polymorph is on point for the bot lane of BLG. Viper does get cleaned up by Hoya, but not quite enough to turn the fight around as Knight tries to do enough. Kara is able to pick him up, but at the end of the day, gold going into the right pockets here for BLG. Viper is now back online with 5 kills on the Misfortune, and things continue to get more dire for NIP.
Now, don't get me wrong, BLG do still have to continue with the focus that they put onto Assum, continue with fights that begin with his demise. But this was a big blow that was just dealt to NIP, taking Assum off of Summoner's Rift, even for the seconds they were able to, and importantly, getting gold onto their own carries once again. It's just a really good news story. We'll note Bin is about to go Mega, but Hoya answers that back with a nicely timed steal on his ultimate. Assum does get aggressive, however, and Viper, unfortunately, steps 1 foot too far up and falls to Assum. Not something that we can be allowing in a game where Assum must die.
Viper forgetting he's not Ezreal in this game and stepping up way too far on the low mobility Misfortune. That should be Dragon completely secured here for NIP. That means the stacking is delayed, and that is a nice pickup. It's not going to be the end of the world for BLG, but it's certainly a win for NIP, something they've been struggling to achieve over the course of the last couple of games. For now, it will be vision control on the top side with Knight pushing out this wave. And we'll see where NIP can utilize these resources, but at the very least, it's a win condition delayed for Bilibili.
Hey, Kman, I just want to make sure that I'm reading this situation correctly, because I'm feeling pretty good right now. I'm feeling pretty excited, because I feel like I'm watching NIP have their best game of the series. Whether or not it results in a win, this is looking a lot better to me.
Completely agree. I think they're playing pretty well, all things considered right now. If their early game was just a tad bit more stable, they would have a lot more inroads here. As it is, I think they need to make sure they don't make any massive mistakes, but these fights are interesting, and this Yunara is online. For now, mid-lane tier 1, and Assum the target.
I tell you what's interesting. Whatever that was interesting. Whatever the amount of damage that just happened to Assum was, I'm sure that interests him a lot. Hoya, unfortunately, captivated by Bin right now. Will be slowed up on the way out, and once again, steal the Gnar ultimate, this time for a disengage if he is lucky, and unfortunately, he is not. He gets taken out pretty darn quickly by an extra bullet time, and BLG get to back away into what I think I can safely call their jungle for now, as with one member removed and the amount of power that BLG have with a 3,000 gold lead, BLG, wherever 5 of them are, they own that part of the map.
That is certainly the case. This unit is much stronger than these individuals. You can worry a bit about the front-to-back damage if these fights end up happening, but the problem for both of these teams is that front-to-back is not super consistent. The engage from BLG in particular, I think, is really what you're going to watch. They have so many ways to start fights with the Gnar, with the Wukong, with the Lulu ultimate. So many different ways to be able to play more aggressive if they do want to group up and look for these picks. So we see what happened with Hoya. A lot of wandering for this Sylas as he kind of walks around and walks right into an R that ends up being his demise in that. He's 2-6-2 on this Sylas. He's been a huge part of their success in other series on the top side. Not so much in this one.
This is one of the things that NIP are stuck with is that they have a composition that does want to get proactive, that does actually spike around now in a lot of ways, and would like to pick fights and don't really know where they want to manufacture them, where they can manufacture them, whereas BLG, I think, are really locked in on where they can pick fights, and a lot of that is around Shun right now, specifically around his ultimate. You saw him looking for a play right there in the opposing jungle, knowing that he has Knight on the way. And IP are going to fish for something in the mid lane, and this could go incredibly hard. Assum's going to get aggressive first. Not seeing anything from Guwon. Has Flash and Supreme Display of Talent, but doesn't want to pull the trigger on those, understandably, just yet.
Yeah, these are the plays they would go for in the regular season. Now it's going to be the Raptors fight.
And Assum.
Viper and Assum
does not get assassinated, importantly, and manages to, with the shield bow, get the proc on a little bit of extra HP, which, for that fight, not the most important thing. For the next couple fights that we see where everyone is playing together, the extra shielding coming out of shield bow may just be the thing between NIP winning and losing a fight.
That's the thing, you have to counter the Lulu somewhere, and that's going to be through the shield bow, potentially giving you that survivability that you so desperately need in these fights. Hoya once again overextended.
He gets lucky this time, though.
Waltz his way out. Oh, we have an exchange Guwon going in here.
Not going to use Supreme Display of Talent on an extremely tanky Shun. Understandable. Understandable, especially with Assum not here. However, as Assum arrives, that does become a possibility should they want to pick a fight. The answer for BLG is that they also would like to fight, and so NIP do have to back away. But 30 seconds on this next dragon. I'm imagining that's where we find our next actual engagement, since the skirmishing seems to have died down a little bit. Skirmishing over no objectives, outside of Hoya overextending as he does occasionally, doesn't seem to be the big focus of the game anymore. Instead, it should be around objectives where unfortunately Assum can read. He sees that there are 7 seconds on the objective and steps a little too far forward, has to burn Flash, but does fortunately get out alive. Hoya may not be so lucky as he pulls off a strange sequence of plays, thinks about going back in. Fortunately for him, Knight goes golden in the meanwhile, but the end result is that BLG get Dragon.
It's a bit of a knife's edge play. If Assum ends up dying there, things could get really bad for NIP. Same thing for the Hoya teleport. If those chains land on a Knight, he probably kills him, even with the lack of gold that he has. Cosmic Drive and Rocket Belt is that strong on that champion, so it's really, really well played by everybody involved. It's going to be Soul Point, like you said, going over to Bilibili Gaming. That means in 5 minutes, that Hextech Soul is on the map for BLG to potentially be able to pick up. Hoya, unfortunately, not able to make the impact that he needs to make right now on the map, but this Sylas still is going to be scary. Even though he's down 3,000 gold, it's crazy to say that, you know, one chain could really actually make a bit of a difference in these exchanges. My question, though, is where is Knight? Where is he going to put that pressure? What's he going to do? Here's the answer. My bad.
We found it.
We found it.
The vision control is where it begins, brother. BLG, they now having taken one pick, are going to be able to threaten Baron. Finding another would secure Baron for them, and unfortunately NIP just don't have a whole lot of options to walk up into something that they know is a 4v5. Instead, it's Shun who has plenty of space to walk up, force a Supreme Display of Talent that hits nothing, and solo kill Guwon. With a jungler down, NIP must answer or lose Baron, and it looks like they're losing Baron.
Yeah, I don't know how you answer here. 35 seconds on a Kiana that's already desperately far behind in terms of resources and gold. Shun, yes, he's a little bit lower in health. He's got a Guardian Angel completed, so even if you want to feel like you can take down this jungler, he's still going to be able to survive in some key moments. It will be a trade of tier 1 mid lane, but if that's your trade, that is a desperation play, as this Baron is off the map and in the hands of BLG.
I can tell you that 100 out of 100 times I would trade tier 1 mid lane for Baron. Exactly as you say, it is a sign of desperate times for NIP, but they make the trade, and unfortunately they trade a little bit more than they wanted to. Care loses the game for a little bit. He loses the game, like his own sense of the game, not loses the game for the team. And that costs him. This also going to cost Assum, as everybody's game sense just seems to have been completely thrown off by this Baron play. We know that BLG are in the bush. We know that they're walking into your jungle. And NIP lose the Baron, but they also lose all sense of where BLG are on the map.
I'm just watching the bricks on the building slowly fall and crumble everywhere on the ground. It's play after play. It's dynamic pick after dynamic pick. It's BLG excellence everywhere across the map. And with these death timers, BLG could push for a lot and potentially even game here.
Certainly depends on what picks, if any, they can find. The inhibitor sure to fall, no question about that. And the rest, really up to Shun, as he'd be their pick machine for now, being no rage. Shun is setting up the mid lane wave to hopefully grab a tier 2 tower, something that seems unlikely with 3 members of NIP in the area, but a respectable possibility nonetheless, especially as BLG take to the map once again.
Yeah, they are on the map, and they are feeling like they can basically get away with whatever they want here. It's a 6k gold lead, not the largest they've had in this series, but an 11-kill LeBlanc will certainly make it feel a little bit scarier. 10 stacks of the Medjai's completed. Knight is a scary, scary man right now on the Rift. 4,000 gold lead for this Gnar on the top side, who has been terrific. Bin has been phenomenal throughout this entire series, and with the siege coming down, with the rest of this Baron buff, we see what NIP can do to dissuade this. Flank on the way for Shun.
And in comes the 2-man engage, does manage to catch a single member completely isolated. It is Care that goes down. A double kill goes the way of Viper, but Hoya wants to answer back, does get out over the wall as he retreats and ultimately finds the kill on Viper, but it does little for the mostly dead NIP squad. Everyone but Zhuo has been taken out, and Knight, not a care in the world, has plenty of time to spend harassing the support. Does go down. It's 1,000 gold shutdown to Zhuo. Doesn't change much, but it does look pretty cool.
Knight said he wanted to face Zhuo in the playoffs. BLG chose NIP, and doing so will get them into round number 2. As a fantastic victory here for Bilibili Gaming pushes them across the finish line with a very clean 3-0.
Funny thing that Knight and Zhuo were the ones fighting at the end of that game. Just a little bit of friendly banter, shall we say, at the end of a swift 3-0. BLG did not look particularly troubled in this series. BLG did not even look particularly troubled in Game 3, but I will say again, credit to the Ninjas in Pyjamas where it is due. Game 3 was the closest.
They certainly put up a fight in game number 3. They haven't really been able to do that throughout the other games in the series. I don't think it's a coincidence that they had their best draft in game number 3 and then, you know, had an opportunity to be able to play it out from there. Unfortunately, some key areas just ended up losing. I think you're looking at a player in Hoya, who was their only positive in game number 2 on the Jace, just get completely obliterated on the Sylas, and unfortunately, just too many mistakes in the middle of the map. It wasn't a good enough day from some of the young players that needed to prove what they had. They just end up dropping down, but they're still alive. NIP fans, do not worry. You're not out of the tournament just yet. You still got that lower bracket run, potentially.
Yeah, and the lower bracket run that, again, is the expectation for NIP coming into this series. You would have to be... Yeah, you'd have to be delusional, I think, to come into this series and go, no questions asked, NIP are going to the next round. That would be crazy. That would be a crazy thing to say. But they do perform, I would say, to expectation in this series. A 3-0, much like we saw earlier today. What you expect out of the first round of playoffs. I would even say that Game 3 was a good news story for them. Now, they return to the Knights' Road, as they will be facing IG after this series the team from Group Ascend that they already know they can beat, and that series is actually going to tell us a lot about how this one went, because this is NIP's learning moment. They just got to face the bottom of Ascend, they won that. They faced the top of Ascend, they lose that. Can they face the bottom of Ascend and beat them with even more emphasis, with even more confidence? Or was this series just a shellacking that we learned nothing from? That's what the next series will tell us.
Hey, I mean, if that's the mentality you want to go into the next series with, you beat IG, and it's not like IG did any better earlier today. They got 3-0 themselves by a Weibo Gaming team that I think most people would consider weaker than Bilibili. Granted, those games were significantly closer, so I think that's also fair to say. But at the end of the day, NIP, you eat the loss to BLG. You absorb the beating that you were kind of prescribed to take in round number 1 from one of the clear best teams in the entire region, and you end up trying to pull what you can out of it. I think that there are some positives. I think Care had some nice moments early in the series. I think Assum, of course, was okay in game number 3 here on the Yunara after being a big question mark on the Corki in game number 2. You know, there were plenty of things I think to really like individually. It's just the package that was kind of missing overall, and you're just hopefully going to be able to pick that up more in the lower bracket.
Why are you giving Assum an okay in game 3? Like, literally, they're not even from this group, and he's, like, the most fed member. Why are you giving him an okay?
Yeah, you know, maybe I should be a bit more bullish about the performance there. I think I just got so distracted in so many of those fights because Assum was doing his thing, and then On was just taking over on the Lulu. It's so crazy to say that. We saw him on the Playmakers in the first couple of games, but to me, this was the On game. Like, Knight's gonna get MVP and he deserves it, but like this was an unbelievable game from him on the Lulu, and that's what really ended up kind of catching my attention in these fights.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, On looked very, very confident in this series, and it actually makes me wonder, in the same way as NIP had more of their mistakes punished against BLG, I wonder how much of On looking good in this series is because, you know, he was having a really good series, or because NIP are not punishing mistakes at the level that we see other Ascend teams punish On when he is getting aggressive like that. Because, I walk away from this going, yeah, On was fantastic. What was he, though? Like, what was he actually against a better team? I'm not sure.
I'm going to give him the credit, and I'm going to give him the credit for a couple of prime reasons. I think history would lead you to believe that, okay, On against international competition, not always been the most consistent player in the world. Something that gets talked about too little, in my opinion, is how good On has been domestically in the playoffs. He's really been a big domestic performer. He was a big reason why BLG ended up making finals last year. And people kind of forget that he can go on these runs. But more specifically, On's just been really good this year so far. He has really, really stepped back up to the